If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
And the bad news is the furnace seems to be on the blink. So that's not fun. But what are you going to do? Fortunately, we've got a few space heaters. We'll be okay for tonight. But I have texted my furnace guy to let him know. Looks like we're going to need a little visit. Stuff happens. So, let's get some work done. Wanted to point out, if you're not, this isn't probably the most useful tip I've ever given, but if you don't want to use file import animation frames into Krita to bring in, well, obviously animation frames, there is another way to do it, and the way to do it would be, if you have an image viewer that you like, you can just grab the images, like, grab a batch of images, dump them on Krita, and let me switch back to Krita, I'll show you. And then Krita will ask you if what you're wanting to do is insert many layers. So if you insert many layers, only reason I mention this is because it actually is the way that you can in fact do animation in Krita with vector layers, which theoretically can't be animated, but actually they can. You just create a bunch of layers and then animate the vectors, and you can sort of toggle between the layers by soloing them, and then you simply put them all in a group and just convert the group to a paint layer, to an animated paint layer, I should say. So let me look at this. From what I can see, the performance of this methodology is not really that amazing. So to me, I'm thinking, well, it doesn't really necessarily save you much time over just doing import animation frames and browsing to the images. But for an animated sequence that's smaller, this would actually not be a bad way to do it. So what I was saying is, if you isolate the layer and then just toggle between the layers, you can kind of see what you got going in terms of motion. Of course, here what we have is and we may find out that Krita is not as cooperative as I might have thought, because it doesn't seem to be switching between layers. But anyway, not a big shock considering that Krita has a habit of having functionality that doesn't actually quite work. But anyway, any batch of images that are in a, see, what you'd want to do is isolate it, and then theoretically I should be seeing Luka animate, because I know that these images are different. There is movement. So what that tells me is that performance-wise, Krita actually can't keep up with it. So it'd be a technique you'd probably only want to do if you already knew predictably what was going on in the animation, and then you just go layer, convert, group to animated layer. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. And as you can see, what it does is it takes all the images that were in the group and turns them into an animated layer. So it looks to me like actually this sequence pretty much ends here. Once I get past, well, I can flip to Blender and see for sure. Hey, Art England. Hey, Maria. If we go to Blender, we can see, yeah, so Blender, really the animation was over and done with by the time we got to like the 20th frame. So anyway, the workflow from Blender to Krita is definitely, as I mentioned the other day, it seems to be satisfying my 3 E's of animation, which I'll state now once again just because I'm sure you're all dying to know, if you don't already, what the 3 E's are. But the E's are efficient, effective, and enjoyable. I like the principle of the 3 E's of animation. Efficient means, well, let's say effective means whatever it is that you want to be able to do, you in fact can do with the tools that are available. Efficient means that it's not like running through molasses. You can actually just, take what you have in mind, and assuming you know your tools, just move forward and get the job done. And then number 3, hopefully it's fun. Now the problem with Krita, for the most part, has to do, I suppose, with the efficiency thing, because it's, I basically lately have been constantly running into things about Krita that do make it a little bit frustrating at times to use, even though I'm still sticking with version 5. But I found out to my dismay, one of the cool things in version 5 was that theoretically Krita is portable now, because you can go into your settings and you can change the resources folder, which in my case are put in a folder that's within the Krita application folder. So theoretically makes Krita portable, but what I found out today is if you have multiple installations of Krita, so just think about this for a minute. This will baffle you probably. But if you have multiple installations, which I do, I've got the nightly build, I've got 5.0.2, and just straight up 5.0.0. And frankly, I have the last 4 version on my system as well. But what I found out was that you can set the resources folder to a certain location, but just think about this, and as I said, it'll baffle you, is if I change this path in Krita 5, okay, theoretically that preference is saved in the Krita 5 folder with the application. So it's isolated from the rest of the system, right? Well, no, not so fast. Turns out if you load up 5.0.2, even having made certain that you set its preferences for resources to a folder within its application folder, right? So each instance of Krita has its own application folder, right? Well, it turns out if you change one of them and then open a different version, you find that the changes are still propagated over in the other version too, which makes no sense. Even if you change the name of the folder to hide it from the other installation, it'll still have the paths wrong, which means that Krita is still storing information in your system folders or something. And when the Krita developers say it's now a portable application, what they mean is it really isn't, but it kind of is a little closer to being portable than it used to be. Kind of a bummer, but like I said, what are you going to do? Okay, so in this case, in terms of leverage, this shot was a really big win, because we've got 2 shots in the show that are basically this pose of Luka, and through the whole sequence, he's basically sitting there, okay? And the shots that use this pose are about, one of them's 30 seconds apart from the other, and the other one's a minute apart, so they're spread out pretty good, so it's not like we're overusing it. But anyway, once again, I was able to go into Blender here, and I suppose this stuff right here was from another shot. And also, for what it's worth, in the other shot, Luka was bigger, and he was over here. So I parented the Luka, the layers to an empty, and then just resized it to reposition him in the scene. And then added some new animation frames, including this laughing thing, and I was pretty happy that it only adapting this drawing of Luka, which I really like, because I really got the characterization right on this. That's like a perfect drawing of Luka. That's really what he's supposed to look like. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going through and replacing some older shots where either wasn't quite right, or at the time I didn't quite kind of know what the character was supposed to be or whatever. And so creating this shot, probably took a half an hour, which is quite nice. Back to Krita. And then what I did was I took the old version of the shot, just deleted Luka out of it, and then this is what was already, in the shot from before. So this is Mel is reaching down to pick up one of these broken bowls, and he's like, "Yeah, yuck it up, kid," as Luka's chuckling at him. So anyway, kind of fun. So what I'm going to do is, we got the animation of Luka here, and as I said, once we get past about frame 20, I think specifically it's like 19, 18. I guess 18 is the last animated frame. All these frames, we can just delete them. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-X and just get rid of them. There's no need to keep them in there. So he does his little giggle thing twice. And I guess you could argue that maybe we should put this frame here so that he is in the down position when he's done. And if you were thusly inclined to keep the repetition of it going, you could, I suppose, run another cycle of it. Meaning from frame 4 to, let's see here, where's he start again? Say there. So then you just go Control, click, smack that down there, and that gives you another cycle if you wanted to have it. So, but in the show, the shot is fairly short, so I don't think it's going to get much past frame 24. At 8 frames a second, that's 3 seconds, and this is plenty long enough for a shot like this. He reaches down, boom, it's going to cut away. So yeah, actually, this is probably stupid to have those in there. All right, and for the record, let me jump back to Vegas and look at that shot. Yeah, well, that shot is 4 seconds, 17. It's almost 5 seconds long. So I think I'm gonna rethink that. I'm gonna go ahead and stick that back in there just because. What happens is Mel says his line, but this is the shot that dissolves. It dissolves out from that to a transition. So frankly, it probably would be kind of useful to have those repetitions in there. So we'll save that. Now, having said all that, we're going to do the paint, and then we're going to actually want to take this cycle and recopy them anyway, because once the paint is in there, we're going to want to keep the ink and the paint together. So anyway, that showed you what to do if you wanted to duplicate a sequence. And the other thing we can do, by the way, in Krita 5, which is kind of cool, is once we have those frames in there, we can go clone, and these additional instances of the laugh cycle will be actually clones of the first instances. Making sense, people? Okay. Cool bean. And by the way, the shot theoretically is actually supposed to have monkey pop back out too, so we'll get to that when we get to it. But the first thing we need to do is steal some color from somewhere else. Meaning, I'm going to scan back on my timeline, which you guys can't see at the moment, and I'm going to just take a snapshot, copy it to the clipboard, and then come over here, and usually I kind of put my color key up on top. Then I'm going to hit the G key. Actually, no, I'm going to hit the square key, or the, I guess, rectangle. In foreground, and I'm going to actually trim this off, then hit the A key, shrink it down, and then it's there just to serve as a color key. Right? Piece of cake. So, where is Luka? What we want to do, first thing we really should do is put him in a group and start naming our layers a little more intelligently. So we'll call this ink, And then we're going to definitely need a shadow layer, SHD. We're going to need a cast shadow, which is just going to be a single drawing to keep it consistent with what you see over here. You can see there's like a cast shadow from the wall. And obviously paint. We're going to need a paint layer. So we'll put a paint layer under there, and we can continue to call that paint layer since it's a paint layer. And by the way, for those of you who have a keen eye and are noticing a little bit of a difference between this wall color and the background, that's a bit of a holdover from this legacy shot, and I do kind of sort of plan to fix that. So, all right, I am going to, apparently the space heaters are working and my hoodie is making me a little warm, so I'm going to take it off and then get busy here. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Alright, so what do we do? Well, if we want to do the fill operations and not be distracted by the background, or have the areas not fill correctly, we need to go ahead and turn the background off. And now we can rock and roll. So first thing I will do is go ahead and insert an animation key there. So I'm just hitting the insert key. SHD layer is going to need animation keys. The cast shadow layer will not. So guess that's it. And then for paint, let's see, how do we want to strategize this? Probably we should just get his eyes done first, because everything else is going to be painted around them. So I'm going to hit the F key for the, well actually, probably we'll use the G key, which is the freehand path tool. I always switch it to raw mode so it doesn't apply any smoothing. And then control key, sample the whites of his eyes. And now we'll just, whoa, wrong brush. Wrong brush. What brush am I using right now? I guess I just want that one. Why is it set to 17 point? Okay, let me check something here. That switch back to 5. Okay, there we go. Alright, and again, G key, so that's a little more manageable. And why is it not painting? We don't have some kind of transform maskers. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, this is here's a tip for you. One thing with Krita is if there's any selection, painting can only happen within that selection area, which is perfectly sensible. So that was my fault because I forgot I had a selection. So you can see this is it's kind of amazing, isn't it? You know, how dark his eyes actually are. You wouldn't think. Okay, so let me think about this here for a minute. I want to think about this. Yes, I'll tell you what we're going to do this time. I'm going to have a bunch of paint layers. I've kind of bumped into this before. It's not a big deal, but the basic idea is that you wind up with paint layers that have different numbers of keys in them, because here we need to do 3 or 4 frames because of his arm moving, but his face doesn't actually change until we get here. So, and here we basically want a blank frame. So I'm going to do this the Ed Tadeo way, which is to keep the colors separate. So no big deal. We'll just add a paint layer, And I'm going to change this preference over here so that auto key blank, I think that will do what I want. We'll find out. We'll call this skin. Frankly, I had forgotten that there's really only one frame in the whole sequence that where his eyes are visible. So so if I turn the eyes layer back off and then fill the skin layer, whoops, wrong color there, Jack. I think we might want something more like that. And there it is. Okay. So now the question is, did that insert a key? Looks like it didn't. So the rule is this auto key blank or auto key duplicate, what that means is that if there's a drawing and you go to another frame and you start drawing, it's gonna it's gonna clean the slate and you're gonna have a new blank drawing the minute you start drawing on that frame. That's not the default behavior in Krita. Some programs it is, some it isn't. In Krita, the default behavior is it's going to add to a drawing that's already there. And so this is a new feature they've added so that when you draw, it just, boom, creates a blank keyframe for you. If you apply the fill tool, apparently it doesn't work, is what I'm getting at. So, for example, here, if I were to hit, if this was on, and I were to use my brush and okay, I just hit the B key and it didn't catch it. Krita. I'll do my best, guys, for tonight not to become a Krita rant. You can see it created a blank keyframe, right? Okay. That's all I'm saying. The normal behavior in Krita has always been to just add to what's already there. And so, anywho, what we're going to do here is, I guess since we're doing this by colors, so what you normally do, and it's been my procedure for a couple years that I've been using Krita, is you just hit the insert key and create a blank frame. But this is a little tricky because theoretically what you really wanted to do was erase this and then fill this, but don't want to be in erase mode. Okay, so yeah, that worked. Yeah, I'm actually finding it's probably faster to just repaint each of those. Whoops. Ooh, looks like we've got a leak, and indeed we do. That's too bad. Was hoping not to have one of those, but everybody that does animation bumps into leaks every once in a while. Fill that. Insert, fill that. Now, again, if I really wanted to optimize the work here, truth of the matter is, there really are only that's it actually. You've got down and up. That's it. So these are really redundant actually. Once his hand gets up there, we could go, you see what I mean? We could take these two and just hit control and drag them over here and make duplicates, and then look at how many cycles we have. I guess we just have 3, so there you go. And so there you go, 3 cycles. Do. Okay, and now his eyes, we can turn them back on. Oh, well, okay, yeah, we're going to be duplicating these downstream as well. So this. Let me look at what he does here. 3. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete these. And then once we get all the paint in there, we'll duplicate them all as a batch. Edwin Torres. We got 2 people who both have the last name of Torres. That's kind of unusual, isn't it? I have no idea where you get all your energy from. got into using palettes. You asking me where I get my energy from? Is that directed to me? I don't know. What is this? That's not Melchizedek. I need to have that turned off. Where do I get my energy from? I am not a man of tremendous energy, frankly. All right, I think I'm going to retreat from my prior idea. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control E, and I'm going to bake this down. I'm going to put the paint. I'm going to go back to my original idea, which is put the paint all in one layer, because it'll just make it way easier to do all the cloning and yada yada yada. So we'll just call this paint. It depends on the shot. Sometimes it's better to separate things out, and sometimes it's better not to. So it's not like it's a rule. All right, so let's grab the blue and we'll get that in there. Fortunately, we seem to be leak free for the most part. Now, we do have a problem, actually. Kind of a big problem. Not a disaster, but it is a bit of a problem. This color is going to be wrong because the cast shadow's over top of it. So I am going to have to load up shot number... let's load up 120, I think. File, open recent. Where are you, Luka? 96A, 120B. That's the one I was looking for. Okay, so what we need to do is turn that cast shadow off and sample that color. That's all I needed. Fill tool. And now we'll just work backwards. Where do I get all my energy from? I'm not convinced you were talking to me when you said that. I saw a stream with you using OpenTunes. What happened with it? You didn't like it? Well, if you mean OpenTunes specifically as opposed to Tahoma, this is, well, I can actually, I'm kind of glad you asked that. I was doing some experiments. Let me see. Let me think about how I want to say this, because I want to say it concisely in like less than 2 minutes. Over the last 3 years, I went from having been using Blender for 20 years. When I first started getting into animation, because I was kind of transitioning from making live action films, and decided I wanted to do the cartoon thing, I immediately was using Blender just because I knew Blender. Didn't take very long. I got into OpenTunes, and then within a few months, I stumbled across Krita. Okay, so Krita, OpenTunes, and Blender were pretty much my tools of choice. If we go actually, let me open something up here for you guys, if you'll indulge me here for just a minute. Blender. Okay, let's grab this. So this anime thing I was working on for, and I don't know if this has audio. I think it might. I don't have my headphones on. This bit was something I was working on before I started working on Salt and Light. So it's edited in Blender, but basically if you look at this is probably, like, that's probably mostly OpenTunes. That's OpenTunes. The first opening shot was mostly painted in OpenTunes but composited in Blender. This was composited in Blender. So it's like this total mishmash. And then when I got to probably around this time, so I didn't get very far into the show before I found myself using Krita a lot. Okay? So, and I've gone back and forth. It's an endless quest to find the right tool. The basic issue with OpenTunes is I switched to Tahoma, which is a fork of OpenTunes, because Tahoma lets you cut and paste from Krita directly into Tahoma. In fact, you can even cut and paste. Like, I could take this whole group right here and Control C and just paste it into Tahoma. So I can go like this and Control V, and it's going to take the whole composited group and paste it into Tahoma. So I found that was really useful. The basic problem is the plastic tool in Tahoma I use for deforming characters, you know, little turn of the head, or in this case shrugging Luka's shoulders. Those deformation tools are kind of they're a big deal for me, okay? I use them a lot. And being able to do deformation type animation. So in this case, you know, you got one drawing of Luka, and then I had to redraw his hand in a new position, but basically I was able to just select these strokes like this, you know, and just move them to a new position kind of thing. And then the shoulder shrugs were just sculpted, like I just went like this. So to be able to do that and have the lines retain their nice, sharp, crisp, you know, because it's a vector format basically. Of late, this has been the, you know, it's kind of like one of those 80-20 things where the ability to do this, like predictably, is way more valuable than almost anything else, at least for me, in getting the look and the style of animation and everything that I want, right? So for that reason, most recently, I was using Tahoma for most stuff, and Krita was relegated mostly to background painting. So that was more than 2 minutes, that's for sure. But you know, they each have their strengths. And if I could not be using Krita, people talk sometimes about, you know, TV Paint or Clip Studio Paint. You know, there's other programs out there. But on balance, despite its shortcomings, which are legion, Krita seems to be the best tool for the job for me. Right? So most recently, the workflow, being able to do the pencil tests and the inking fluidly in Blender and then just bring it into Krita for paint has been a really effective workflow. And for my money, has been better than Tahoma. And the main reason is, you look at that shoulder shrug. You could not do that. Now, you know, somebody's going to chime in and say, well, why don't you just draw it again? And they're correct. Of course you can draw it again. But you know, it's all just a choice, and at the end of the day, you know, something took you 45 seconds instead of 52 seconds. Does it really matter? You know, when I can take a drawing where I've nailed it and it's good and it looks right, and then use those digital tools to sort of bring it to life, that is a workflow that works for me. I enjoy it. It's fun, and it's effective. So there it is. I tell people, though, repeatedly here, and I give you the long explanation, because when people come here and they ask what should I learn, I usually tell them Tahoma. Tahoma is the middle ground. It's a really good all-around tool with a fairly reasonable learning curve. But I was doing some tests actually earlier today with doing the fill operations like this in Tahoma. And long story short is I tried a few different things. Like, you would probably want to hit shift so it fills more strongly. But bottom line is, it's definitely not as flexible or easy to work with as Krita. And plus, I also did some experiments today with doing the ink work with Tahoma vectors, and that was a disaster. It's just so inferior to Blender's grease pencil that's not even funny. So anyway, so that's kind of the long and windy story about why I use the tools that I use. I mean, it's funny because if you go to the show, to tell you the truth, there's a sequence of shots that I didn't even do this on the live stream, but I think let's take 97 for example. This is a good example of what the sort of thing that kind of comes up over and over the course of a project that's this big. This is actually, I took the shot that had been created in Tahoma, and I added shape keys in Blender. So this is what was originally created was this. Okay? And by adding the deformation, I was able to dial in his characterization, get him a little more correct than he was before, just by just bringing in the video, mapping it to a plane, and then distorting it a little bit. You know, just stuff like that that you couldn't even think about doing that in Tahoma. And you could kind of do it in Krita with the liquefy tool, but it's going to be way less performant and it's way more likely to crash. So that's just, when you say, yeah, Darren, definitely, if you want the quick start kind of thing, Darren T, Maria's recommendation is absolutely the right one. Just go to Darren T's channel and you can learn the basics, right? Okay, so let's do this. Let's go on the shadow layer. I've got a keyframe, so I'm going to hit the G key, make it black, and then the G key is the freehand path tool. So the only reason I use it is because it allows me to draw shapes that are filled like that. And because this little button here is clicked, it alpha locks it. Okay, and then I just turn the layer opacity down and I've got my shadows. So for me, that's a good methodology I've found for doing shadows. So sometimes I rant, I rant about Krita a lot because, as I like to sort of only half jokingly say, I love Krita, I hate Krita. And it's really true. It really is true. I want this to be about, yeah, probably about 13. Usually 13 is about right for shadows. But I mean, like TV paint, for example. I mean, you can pay $1,000 for TV paint. It really is not about the cost. I mean, if the tool was really the right tool, and it hit the sweet spot for me, because it is a lot of taste, just how you like to work and what you enjoy doing. But that deformation stuff I showed you that you can do with the grease pencil and also with the images that I mapped to the plane, you can't do that in TV paint. $1,000 program, you can't do it. You can come close, but you really can't quite get there. So, and the thing is, you'd never know that until you've, used it for a while, and you kind of have to do the deep dive to find out what the real shortcomings of a tool are. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead. I don't want that thing where it automatically creates a blank keyframe because I want to keep most of the prior drawing here. So for all my complaining, today, for example, using Blender and Krita, I've gotten, honestly, if you talk, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong screen. If you talk about, well, actually, let me switch back here. Like all these fixes that involve deforming the character, I have to say, I mean, I did a little fix to this because the ink lines were a little too dark, stuff like that. In the last day or two, I've gotten several of these Luka shots done, and all those fixes on Mel's characterization that I showed you in Blender that I did by deforming the video map to a plane, that was all done, I think, yesterday. I mean, just today I've gotten like 4 shots done. So it's, the productivity's been pretty good. Despite all my, as I say, complaining about Krita. I'm going to say, let's go ahead and put a little bit of that cast shadow right down there, actually. I think that looks pretty good. No, I'm with you, R. England 77. For most people, I swear, the thing is, why not Krita? Because all the weird little bugginesses of Krita, it took me a long time to find the sweet spot where I can get a lot done with Krita, even though it has some very, very, it's got some quirks. Okay, let's put it that way. And so I'm trying to convey this the best I can, because we're talking about stuff that if you didn't do the deep dive, you just wouldn't even know. You'd hop in the program and go, wow, this is an amazing piece of software, which it is. But when you got 800 shots in a show like I do, you start bumping into things that kind of slow you down from time to time. So they've gotten some things right. The one thing I've mentioned repeatedly is that the render settings in Krita remembers where you rendered it to. That seems like a very small thing, but when you got 800 shots, and every time you open a shot and then need to re-render it, and you have to retype in all the paths and everything, or worse, open the file browser and browse to it, it gets old. Stuff like that gets old. So they definitely have improved some things. Now, one of the things we can do in Krita is use the liquefy tool, which I use a lot. Like here with the shadows, I'm just going to use the liquefy tool to squish the shadows around a little bit in space. Definitely useful. But then one of the quirks I'm talking about is the fact that Krita, with the liquefy tool, if you resize it so you've got more control, okay, and then you say, well, I need to check the prior frame, and then I come back to this one, I'm going to quick liquefy again, and it actually didn't do it this time, which is one of the more bizarre things about Krita, is that the things that are buggy in Krita, it's also really inconsistent, where sometimes things don't work, and then you turn around and they do work, and that's normal for Krita. It's normal for things to sort of work half the time, and I'm only being a little bit snarky when I say that. So what normally happens with the liquefy tool is if you resize it and then you go check, well, certainly if you switch to a different tool and then switch back to liquefy, it will not remember. So it'll default back, and then you have to resize it again. Again, it's like, really, dude, you're complaining about that? If when you have to do it 600 times in a day, it starts to add up, So, but as I said, on balance, it's proven to be a workhorse for me. Okay. So now we need to duplicate. Let's see, we got that. So let's duplicate this twice, right? I could make them clones, but probably not really necessary. Okay, so let's just preview this. Okay, one thing that's bugging me is, yeah, that. So, get the G key. This shadow really needs to not just like completely disappear. Yeah, that's better. Cool. That'll work. Alright, so now We do need the cast shadow, but in order to place it correctly, we really need to put the background element still in there. Okay, so here we see. Yeah, the only way this works is if Luka is more appropriately positioned in the shot. So let me think about this one. I didn't really think about it before I put the paint in. Okay, so Luka is really, he's probably not too large. I think I'm going to maybe replace that anyway. Let me take that out. So yeah, this part, I think, let's go ahead and use a transform. Because we really need to have Luka be... Yeah, okay, I know this sounds amazingly stupid, but the fact that it was just ink lines, you know, I'm sort of looking through the drawing. It really didn't occur to me that we were going to have this layering issue. Now, if we put this on top, yeah, actually, that's probably about right. That's really about where Luka needs to be. So, okay, we're good. So with that, let's go ahead and put in the cast shadow while we're thinking about it. That's going to be something like that. Okay, filter that with a little blur. That's a little too much blur. It looked fine in the closer shot, but here it's getting too soft. Let's go with that. And then we'll just kind of ease it in to taste. Something like that. Looks pretty good. Okay, so that's going to be... I guess that's actually the old pencil test. There's Mel's hand. Where is Mel's hand? Why? Oh, I see. We need to put Mel's hand on the top, silly goose. There we go. Cool, that works. All right, so then this is obviously out of whack. A key. Let's resize that. I would say we'll just kind of do this number. That's feeling a little better. Let's save our work. I like that you show the process as you go through your animation. Not too many people are willing to show their process. Thanks for that. Not a problem, my friend. Not a problem. Well, it is the Animation Truman Show. When I started doing it, I said to myself, you know, if somebody was actually creating something cool and they just let you watch, you know, just watch over their shoulders. So they're going to run into some little hiccups here and there, little things that go wrong, you know, whatever. Well, the reality is everybody has those. No exceptions. And I thought, well, why don't I just roll the live stream and whatever happens, happens. Don't worry about it. So I got to believe it's probably not that entertaining for some people sometimes, especially when things aren't going well. But, hey, this is reality. If you're going to create a cartoon, this is what you're going to do. You're going to either be drawing or you're going to be, of course, there's a certain amount of voice acting. Since I do several of the voices. And I've done entire live streams doing voices of some of the characters in my show, like Asher. music, doing the musical score, which I will be doing soon because I've actually got the second webisode almost ready to go ahead and score it. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. What time is it? 8:50. Okay, I think I'm going to actually take a 2-minute break. So this, we'll keep that handy in case we need it for a color reference on Monkey. So we're going to have to think about what we're going to do with Monkey, but I think, honestly, I probably am going to be able to use this again. I'm actually going to use this again and just shrink it down and stick it in this shot. I don't think I will be reprimanded by the world for that too much. So with that, let me roll this in a loop, and I'm going to be back in like 2 minutes. But I'm going to take a quick break here. And for once, I'm going to remember to turn my microphone back on. Okay, so now what do we need to do? Let's go ahead and let's get Monkey in here. Okay, this is a good example of something that's nice about Krita. You can go copy layer and copy the whole animated layer in, just like that. So now we're going to have, oop, there's Monkey. Okay, and in this case, he's not going to run away. So all of this stuff, let's see, he's got a blink. We'll give him his blink. Yep, we'll give him the blink. So we'll put the blink in like right there. Take these, Control Shift X, get rid of them. Take these 2 frames, Control, copy them over to here, and then grab these 2 and go mirror frames, which just reverses them. So now he's going to go boop, blink, blink, up. Then obviously we need to go so he disappears. And I do want that to be a double blink. Actually, I think that'll be a little more cute. Whoops. Cool, that works. Okay, so now the question becomes, well, when's this going to happen? Boop, right about there, I'd say. So now if I hit Shift Alt, I can take this whole batch and everything downstream from wherever I click will get moved. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to, first of all, get him positioned. He needs to be behind Luka. So we'll put him back here. And then what we will do is add a transform mask. We're not going to animate it. By the way, let's save our work just to be safe. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to move him over to here and get him down to the size he needs to be, about like that. And I think I'm going to angle him up a little bit, because this is just like a monkey thing. This is what he does all the time. He's always like popping in and popping out places. In fact, in the show, it's like, it's, you know, there's a little sound effect whenever monkey pops into a situation. So, okay, good night. I'll try to catch your stream earlier next time. Great, sounds great. Thanks for stopping by, my friend. Okay, now there's one more thing I want to address potentially in this shot. We had a wide shot quite a lot earlier in the show. And there it is. Okay. 089. You guys can't see that, but this is shot 089. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, these little, you know, inconsistencies with backgrounds and stuff, in all reality, it's probably something that no one would ever think about or notice. And I say that with confidence because, you know, I've had people preview sequences of the show where there were those type of inconsistencies that I was well aware of, and they, you know, people don't even notice. They don't think about it. They're thinking about the characters. However, having said that, it would probably be pretty reasonable to consider fixing this up, because it's a pretty low cost fix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my scenes, and let's pull up actually we got to go dash 089, and we want the wide shot. So I think this is probably it. Yeah, okay, so now we've got this whole background. Let me see what we have in terms of layers. That's the main thing I'm interested in right there. I don't really want to bake it together. This is one of those dyslexia moment kind of things where I've got to really think about what I'm doing. This shot we can kill now. We can get rid of that. That was just for reference. And so I think step one would be to copy this layer. And let's go here and paste it. Okay. Now, it looks to me like what we have here is we probably need to put it there, maybe? Yeah. Okay, so that's definitely going to have the saturation knocked down. Yeah, no doubt about that. But insofar as the brick texture goes, and if we leave that layer separate, I think we could probably get away with something of this nature, this shot. Okay. It looks pretty obnoxious, I know. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the layer, and actually the thing to do would be to just flatten the layer. If I flatten the layer, it'll crop it down. Well, okay, maybe it won't. Okay, I thought it would. Crop it to the image size. I don't do this very often. Trim to image size, that's what I want to do. Okay, there. That just gets it a little more manageable. Whoops. That's not what I wanted to do. Undo. Okay. Now we could double it, obviously. Maybe we should. Let's do that. Let's duplicate it and put 2 instances of it. And now we've got a little extra painting to do. But I think I'll stretch this one just to give it a little more variety. Like that. Okay. And then, I know this looks almost utterly obnoxious, but what I'm going to do is hit the B key and go into erase mode and just clean up this transition between the 2 sections. This is really just texture. So okay, so now having done that, I can hit Control E to bake these down. So now this is all one layer, and now let's hit the Control M, and for crying out loud, let's tone down the saturation of this layer. Not too much. Let us turn down the lightness. Probably pull off a bit of the contrast. And let me see about the blending mode. Overlay, I think my curves operation that I just did kind of got shot to pieces. Oh no, I guess it didn't. Okay. So overlay doesn't work. It's probably multiply. Yeah, let me see. Nah, multiply's not going to work. Let's just go back to normal and kind of dial it in. That's not bad. With the caveat that we probably want to rotate the hue. So I'm going to go back to my curves. One of the things I definitely like about Krita is that the curves tool lets you do curves operation on channels that most programs don't let you. So we can actually do a hue rotation here. Like that. Okay. Now hit the... Actually, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to liquefy this. I guess I want to hit Enter, A, liquefy. I'm just going to kind of stretch this so that it has some natural variety in it. I mean, this is a cartoon. It's supposed to look a little cartoony. But, and we'll take Mel's hand out of there so we can see what the heck we're doing. So this doesn't have to be photorealistic or anything. If it's a little, you know, clumpy or whatever, that's okay. I'm definitely not liking that. So let's grab that, grab the brush, bring this back, grab that color. Now let's just do some judicious fixie poo. Doesn't take too much. Yep. Let's dial it in. Boom, boom. A little bit of highlight, catching a little bit of the sun here and there. I'm hitting control to sample the colors here and there. You can really, I mean, you can go as far as you want with stuff like this, you know. Some people would probably go in and I'm hitting the 5 key to get rid of the rotation. Just trying to get rid of the obvious seams. Yeah, what I was gonna say is, what some people would do is grab a brush, probably something like, oh, I think like a particle brush, something like this, and kind of something lighter. Yep, see that? Just add some speckles. Because, I mean, if it was bricks, that's what it would do. I mean, it would be sort of picking up. That's not really dark enough. We're not quite seeing it. Why are we in addition mode? We don't want to be in addition mode, you silly thing. Yeah, see, you can barely see it. Just adds a little bit of noise. And now let's cut to our airbrush, crank the opacity down, and just create a little bit of, I'm going to alpha lock it, by the way, so that I can't accidentally paint outside of the wall. And then I'm going to go into overlay mode. Just a little bit of a smackerel of saturation. Just punch it up a little bit. Alright, so now this, yeah, this can be baked into this once I've erased this little problem right here. So let's go to my pencil again, hit the G key, go into erase mode, and just get rid of that so it sits in the mix better. So the only thing that's still a little egregious would be this edge. It looks in a way that some of us would call stupid, and we don't want it to look stupid. So if your painting looks stupid, then why not take some steps to make it not look stupid? It can look cheesy. Cheesy's okay. It's a cartoon. But you don't want it to look stupid. So, I mean, you know, there we go. That's not too bad. If you really wanted to punch it up just a little bit more, you'd probably get a nice highlight. Like, you could go all the way to white if you wanted to. But turn the opacity way down. And then just start kind of catching some of these edges. A little bit here and there. It's kind of amazing how just a little smackerel of highlight randomly placed tends to make these sorts of textures work. Okay, so now having done that, I can hit Control E and bake it down. So now it's part of the same, that whole section. Alright, the only thing I would say about that would be, let's use the similar color selection tool and kind of grab all that. And I'm still not convinced of the saturation level. So I think what I want to do is punch it up and then dial the saturation back a little bit. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, that's pretty close. And, you know, to be fair, if we looked at the original, honestly, the original wall was a little lighter than this. So I probably should go ahead and push that up. That's getting closer. And then the original wall was slightly different hue. It was a little more pushed toward the yellow. Yep, there we go. There we go. That looks pretty darn close. So now, just so I can change my mind if I need to, I'm going to create a filter mask. So I'm not going to actually bake that into the wall. So now I can, if I wanted to, I could hit F3 anytime I want and change it. Right? But that actually looks almost spot on. Now, another thing one might do, yeah, now the sky behind there is, okay, so here's one other thing you could do, is just take your brush in erase mode and just go like this. Sorry, we need to have the opacity cranked up. So you just get these little, right? I don't probably spend enough time doing this kind of stuff. I actually like doing it when I do it. It's fun to play around with little tricks that kind of just make stuff like look more real or whatever. But yeah, little divots in the wall just from the way the stones have been stacked, right? So, that looks okay. Boom. N key goes back to normal size, so that looks pretty good. So now, let's save our work. So then now the question was, what about the actual background behind him? I'm gonna say, let's see what we have here. That wouldn't be getting into the shot anyway. Let's grab this. Let's grab this layer and have it handy just in case. So this would be in the back. That's what we have back there. Let's paste over top of that. Now look at that. There we go. Now we've got the shot we were supposed to have in the first place. And I'm going to add a blur to it so that just this part of the background's a little out of focus. And that's a little too much. But let's do that also as a filter mask so that if we change our mind later, we can always turn it off. But yeah, okay, cool. We're getting there, friends. We're getting there. Save our work. Let's go ahead and see what we need to do as far as the looping on Luka. Okay, there was a little buffer thing there. Okay, yeah. So now we'll take this block of frames right here, and it doesn't look like you can clone them as a batch, so that really doesn't matter. Let's just go like this, and then go like this. And so now we've got this whole sequence. Mel's like, yuck it up, kid. So we got to put his hand in there. Got to regenerate the animation cache. And Mel says, yuck it up, kid. Okay, why do we have why is Luka? Well, let's find out about Krita 5. Supposedly you can solo a group. Looks like you can, so that's good. So why were we seeing this paint was out of sync? That's not good. Is it out of sync here? It is. But it's not out of sync there. So what did I do wrong? That's the question. What did I do wrong? We've got... Oh, I see. I duplicated the shadows, but not the ink. Okay, okay. Dave, Dave, Dave. So what we need is, oh, I know why. This is something I do not love. I do not love about Krita 5. When you create new frames or new layers, by default they are pinned to the timeline. But if the first layer you start with is not, which is kind of weird. It's like really inconsistent. But what happened there was because the ink wasn't pinned to the timeline, I didn't realize that I had not added the ink in the duplicates. So that's just naughty. So now I think, we'll see, but I think I got it right. Yep. Okay, now we have a problem. But that's okay, this can be easy to fix. Right here, this block here needs to be gotten rid of. And that needs to be gotten rid of. Okay, so now this is what we wanted to see. I like how this shot's turning out. There we go. That should cut into the show quite nicely. Now we saw a little flicker right here, so let's see if that was just a buffer thing. It was. Okay, so we're good. All right. In my show, on my other screen, I'm going to this shot to find. I want to get the length on it. I think I said it was about 5 seconds, didn't I? 8 times 5 is 40. So honestly, 40 frames should do the trick. We'll go to 48. So let's go here. Let's make this a 48 frame shot. Boom. And then this is going to be rendered. I better make sure I render this to the correct location. This is going to be 134. And this is going to be a ping sequence. Okay. So save our work just to be safe. And then hit Control R. And this is 134 render ping sequence. Looks like we got it. So let this render, and then we'll go over to the show and see if it cut in okie dokie. Alright, back over here. And I usually like to go back a shot or two and see how it's flowing. Oh, I like it. I like it. Okay, one thing I noticed though, look. Boom. Okay, yeah. So let's go back here. I want Luka to end on a down, not an up. So we'll get rid of this. And then I want him to be going into another chuckle when the dissolve happens. So I'm going to take these frames, because that's actually a duplicate of the frame that's already there. Move that to there, take this, and just drag this to the west. And I will bet you, I'm feeling bold, I'm going to just render it, and I'll bet you this is going to look good. It's going to look good, good, good. Let's go back to our show. So now we'll see Luka chuckles, and now he's still chuckling. Yeah, see that? It's a nice, he chuckles into the dissolve. That's really what we wanted. Okay. Okay, so now Mel's characterization on that shot is horrendous. That's like completely unacceptable. So I'm going to cut away from that. And actually, you know what? I'm going to be bold here. I am going to subject myself to total public humiliation, because shots like this show just how absolutely talented I'm not. However, what I'm doing is I'm saying, well, okay, way back a couple minutes earlier in the show, did we ever have a shot that would actually be kind of sort of what we're looking for here? Alright, we'll get rid of this. This does not need to be in there anymore. So yeah, this is actually these shots. If I do pilfer this, these two shots are like 3 minutes apart in the show. So there you go. There's a great example of what I'm talking about. The characterization there in this shot that was done just a few days ago looks fine. Here, oh my goodness. But look, it's almost the same pose. Are we freaking out or what? What does this mean? What this means is we should be able to pull up 0.86 in Blender and recreate 1/36 very, very easily. Very easily. Alright, so what we're going to do, since I'm feeling frisky, I'm going for it. Let's go -136, and there it is. We're going to pull that up. There it is. Okay, great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Blender, and what did I say? 0.86. File, open. Let's go to 0.86, and there it is. Oh, that was done in Blender 2.81, it looks like. Okay, so that's alright. That's alright. Yeah. Let us see. Actually, bear with me here for half a second, folks. I want to look at, on the show, if this is definitely the correct shot. Yeah, because this was the first one I did in Blender, and it was before I kind of settled on sticking with Blender 2.79. Okay, so yes, 8.6, and then these are all modifications of the ones that were done in Krita. So I don't really have any other Mel shots, so that's okay. What that means is we're going to kill Blender 2.79, open up 2.81, and what shot did I say that was? 0.86, right? Yeah, see, I got this shot done today that you just saw there on the screen with Golik, which is in Webisode 3, so I've been kind of jumping around a little bit, but 0.86, where are you? There you are. Okay, so there's the ink and paint. Let's pull them both up and have a look at what we've got here. Okay, so this was the pencil test. Ah, yes, I remember this now. And now let's look up the ink and paint. Ooh, that looks pretty good. Okay, let me think about this for half a second. We'd have to change, I need to look at the structure here a little bit, because we would need to change his body orientation. So on my other screen, what I'm doing is I'm going to the shot that I want to fix, and I'm looking at how he's standing there. And it's basically, you know, we could actually use this acting a little bit. But like I said, we got to look at the structure here. We've got shadow, face. I guess what we need to do here is grab the grease pencil, hitting Control Tab to open up the Pie menu, so we can grab the grease pencil object. That allows us to see the layers, and we've got the head, shadow, face, body. So what I want to do is, apparently I never did the shadows. Now wait a second. Whoa, wait a second. If I never did the shadows, then that means I probably did the shadows in the background in Krita. Can you believe I can't remember this stuff? Well, that's what happens when you're doing 8 trillion shots. Like I said, bear with me, friends. I'm going to go back and look at this. Okay, yeah, so we've got this background, and we've got the bowls comped in there. And he's got all kinds of shadows going on, and the shadows blur. So that tells me that had to have been done in Krita. Okay. So 086. And the thing is, 086 is the one I just opened, isn't it? Or no, it was 136. Okay. This is the shot. And it looks like it's taking a while to load, which is a good sign because this, yes. Okay. This is, I can work with this. So what I want to do, okay, let's look at the attitude here. Attitudinally, he just got kind of rebuked, let's say, by Asher. And he's like, well, I know. And he's like, I'm sorry, but there was this girl. And then it cuts to Asher, who gives him kind of a look. And then he's like, oh, I mean, not like that. This might be a good place to quit, actually, because I have to really think about what I'm doing here. Let's take Mel. Let's just do it. Let's copy this layer and assume we're going to be able to make this work. So let's go back here. What is this? Okay, there's a fix, which is irrelevant. That we could keep around. Really? Or not. Let's get rid of that. And let's paste this layer. Okay, so now we've pasted in this whole big thing of Mel. Alright, we're not going to need the bowls. Let's get rid of the bowls. And we're going to obviously have to change his body. That layer can be deleted. So I hope this isn't too crazily confusing for you guys. So the shadows we want to leave alone, and what I really want to do well, hang on a second. Let's get rid of these layers. Why do we need these in here? We don't see his hands in this. At least not until later. That's going to have to be reanimated anyway, so what the heck. Okay. So I think let's go ahead and flatten this layer, or I should say merge this group. Okay. Now, just to make it fair and easy, I'm going to just, well, wait a second. Strike that. This needs to be a transform mask. Add a transform mask. I'm just going to smack this over here so I can have them. And by the way, this should be on the entire Mel group. So the shadows carry over with it. And now I've got the ability to see these two side by side and really see what I've got to work with. But I like this first part is all useless. But once he has this expression, so if he's standing there like this, we'll put his hands down, right? Obviously we put his hands down. But after Asher chews him out, if he goes like this, well, gee, Asher, I'm sorry. Well, you know, blah, 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 I'm sorry. And then get rid of the smiling mouth. That'll be easy to paint out. We'll have to paint out his mouth. But yeah, I mean, I think this could be very easily cobbled into a much nicer version of the shot. than we had before. So I fixed his, yes, you saw that. That's right. I forgot about fixing his neck. Yeah, that was just like yesterday, wasn't it? It's all a blur. It's a blur, man. I can't remember what the heck I did and when I did it. But yes. Sorry, I'm eating my olive now. So what I know for sure, I'm looking at shadow. Ah, there we go. I knew it. I knew something wasn't pinned to the timeline. That is. And then this is just the group. Okay. So. From there. Back to there. Get rid of it. Wait a second. So what? Oh, this isn't pinned either. You silly thing. Okay, so we'll call this legacy shot. So that on the timeline I can see what's what. Okay? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this whole block of frames for all the layers of Mel. And I'm going to remove frame and pull. As you can see, that does a ripple edit and moves everything to fill in the space that I just got rid of. So that again is one of the areas where Krita's pretty, you know, the tools for messing around with, you know, editing your animation keys and stuff are really pretty darn good, frankly. Krita. But now, let's just think about this. I think I'm going to stop there, just because I'll tell you what, I can tell I've got the raw materials to work with, or I'm gonna really actually be able to turn this into a killer shot. This is going to be a great shot. But it's going to require me, I think, to attack it probably tomorrow when I'm fresh. And I don't want to be in too big of a hurry to get a result, so I start taking shortcuts. But as far as the expressions and the acting and the characterization, I like the turn of the head. What we're going to have to do, for example, is his body's going to have to be shifted like this, right? So that his head is. So we're going to have to do some, essentially cut him apart. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to have to do. So I'm actually going to get rid of this transform mask, or at least turn it off. But what I'm going to have to do is cut the head and the body apart completely. You know, chop this down into some raw materials and then glue it all back together. And I think if I do that, I'm actually going to be able to turn this into a good shot. And by the way, frankly, it isn't ridiculous to think, let's just size this up a bit, hit shift. It's not ridiculous to consider that maybe I'm going to be able to make this work with the body acting that's already there. You see what I'm saying? You know, you kind of have to envision it, but... And I can kind of prove it this way. Watch me prove it out this way. You guys will probably think this is kind of fun. I'm going to add a layer. I'm going to put the layer in erase mode. Now I can always delete the layer anytime I want. Okay. So now I'm going to hit the G key. And I'm just going to draw a shape. Like that. Because the layer is in erase mode, As you can see, it hides everything. Now we turn the transform mask back on. And now you're able to almost start to get a rough idea of what maybe we're going to be able to do here. Okay? You sort of have to envision it. But you see that? Are you starting to feel it? The first part's all screwed up for sure because he's angled wrong. But you get rid of that smiling face. I mean, that's pretty good. If you get rid of the smile, so he's got to have a serious expression like he has there at the beginning. But then he actually leans back when the thumb goes up at the right time. You know, it's a pure stupid coincidence, but look at that. Well, it's just that there was this girl. Can you imagine? It's going to be awesome. Dang, I'm good. That's hilarious. That is going to be a good shot. I can't even believe I got that lucky. But, well, this is why, anybody who wonders why, like I've been doing here with Luka, once I've got a drawing that's crisp and the characterization's right, by gum, man, I'm going to reuse it if I can. Let the acting carry the day. It doesn't make sense to redraw something 50,000 times if you really got it right, you know. So I'm gonna say this is definitely gonna work. You know, Asher chews him out, and he's like, well, "Geez, Asher, I mean, well, there was this girl." I mean, nothing like that. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so that's what I'll probably wind up doing tomorrow. But I definitely like what I see. 136 is the shot. So this shot we can get rid of. We don't need to have that open. And we'll work with this tomorrow. So I think that's it. With that, I will say adieu, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, and there will be more later.